Hello and welcome, Angelinos. We thank you for tuning in to yet another brilliant episode of the Galaxy Guy podcast, hosted by Chris Maldonado, a show made by loyal Galaxy fans for loyal Galaxy fans who bleed blue, white and gold. So join us as we talk about the ins and outs, as well as the ups and downs of your favorite team, the one and only, the Los Angeles
Hola y
Galaxy.
bienvenidos, Angelinos. Welcome back, Galaxy fans, to the Galaxy Guys show. You know the rest. I'm your host, Chris Maldonado. Y como siempre, we are always here to talk about your favorite club, our favorite club, the LA Galaxy. We have a lot to talk about tonight, don't we always? We are going to be unwinding Friday's game versus the Seattle Sounders. That was a home game. We will also be talking about the current state of things in general, the LA Galaxy's outlook towards the playoffs. We have a lot of good things to cover on that. Given that there are only 9 games left in this season, and the Galaxy is still very much in a tooth and nail fight for a playoff spot. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is set in stone. The outlook for a lot of the teams in the Western Conference is going to come down to most likely a decision day. I think that's when most of these teams will know whether they're going to the playoffs or not. So very important stats to talk about. We have some very good figures to talk about in regards to that. So stay tuned. But we will focus at the first start of the show. We're going to focus on unraveling Friday's game, which was a tie at home versus a team that has been sitting outside of the playoff line for, I don't know, the majority of the season, right? The Seattle Sounders, they've done one good thing all season, which was win the CONCACAF Champions League, and then not much else after that. But of course, that team is the Seattle Sounders, an ailing giant in MLS in the Western Conference. We'll talk about that. We'll break down the match for you. You guys know what we do. We'll talk about the stats, provide our unbiased analysis, as well as talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the game. So I've said it multiple times this season, the LA Galaxy was not a convincing team. And to help me explain why that is and how we got here, I've got joining me tonight the man himself. You guys already know him. You know who he is. You know what he does. Matt Granger. How are you tonight, Matt?
I'm doing great, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, me and you played pickup soccer this weekend. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I balled out. I think at one point we were up 6-1. I was playing the Tyler Adams role as a disruptor and stopper, and I think we did pretty good. I don't know how we did after I left. I already went a bit sideways.
Fell apart. It definitely fell apart on the defensive end.
But when I left, we were blowing them out. Other than that, life's good. Had a tri-tip today. Watched some good European soccer. Barcelona's on tap. Inter's looking solid. Ilkay Gundogan, who I think is the most criminally underrated midfielder in the world, had a goal. So it was good. It was a good weekend so far.
It was, despite that tie at home for the LA Galaxy. Going into that weekend was good, man. Playing pickup with you always is great. That group of guys that we play with, phenomenal group. It's such a good exercise, man. I didn't think we would last. Personally, I didn't think I would last as long as I did. But we gave it hell, man. At our age, we gave it hell. Yeah. It was good. Matt plays like a very fluid. He doesn't have a position really. He's on the wings. He's playing a fullback. He's playing defensive midfield. He's playing center back. He's all over the place. He's going into the attack. He's providing balls. It's crazy to see, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's a good
stuff.
time.
So, if the Galaxy needs backup players there, give us a call. But it's good, man. It's always good having you on, especially to talk about the Galaxy, win or lose. But before we begin, a quick word to the fans, again, watching us, listening to us right now. If you like what we do, if you're not already following, please hit that subscribe button. It's so easy. Hit the little bell. You'll always be notified when a new video comes up. I promise I will not spam your feed. We have one video out per week at that. So, the algorithm gods love their sacrifice. So go ahead and leave us a comment as well on the video. It does help us know where the fan mindset is, right? To read those comments. And I just enjoy reading comments from other Galaxy fans. So it's good. And we're going to kick off the show now. What do you think, Matt? Should we do it?
Meat of the sandwich. Meat of the sandwich.
We'll get to that, but at first we have to do the appetizer, right? We have to talk about the build-up to this game on Friday. Before we kick this off, the build-up to this game on Friday versus the Seattle Sounders, the Galaxy was coming off arguably their biggest win of the season. Would you call it the biggest win of the season for the Galaxy, Matt? That 5-2 win?
For sure. Absolutely.
There was that win against Montreal, which was 4-0. I think that was the 4th of July game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I can't remember the last time the Galaxy scored 5 goals on a team. So, this was definitely pounding into the ground at home. 3 crucial points, which weigh heavier now that we are entering the final stretch of the season. Points matter, right? Whether it's game number 1 or the very last game of the season, but they start to kind of weigh heavier in that final stretch because that's it. You're running out of possibilities to score those points, and teams are making their final push in the final stretch of the season, a time in which you cannot afford to drop a single point, especially given how extremely tight the Western Conference playoff race is. Some teams are within a point of each other. I think 11th place to 7th is what? There's a difference of
2 points.
2 points. 2 points. That is how tight it is. You cannot afford to be dropping points, right? So I know some people were optimistic and they were seeing this as, well, you know what? At least we got a point, right? I don't know. I'm more of a half glass half empty type of guy. But Matt, let me ask you what your feelings were going into this Friday's game versus Seattle. Were you optimistic, confident, perhaps that the LA Galaxy had finally lined its ducks up in a row, or were you thinking something completely different? Where were you at?
I think it was a bit up in the air. Last time we had talked about on the podcast, these next 2 games are going to be very crucial, right? Because we're going against 2 direct competitors for that last playoff spot. We managed to get 1 win, so we were a little bit ahead of schedule, but I don't know how you can look at being up 2-0 at halftime and then needing to stage a comeback as anything positive. It's one of those things where, like, yeah, you got a point, but like the mentality heat check might be a little bit more debilitating than the point actually was beneficial.
Yeah. So on that same vein, let me ask you, that tie, how does that tie feel? Does it feel like a win?
No, it feels ugly. Yeah, it feels ugly and disgusting. Just the way it went that way. I think, if you're in any exceptional level of soccer, like the Premier League or La Liga or Bundesliga, or even like just an advanced level of like youth soccer, if you're up 2-0 at halftime, you're expecting to win that game, especially when you're at home. And I think, the fact that we had to come back to draw, it wasn't even like a 2-2 draw. The fact that we had to come back just to draw on like a handball. Yeah, on a handball that was controversial. It says a lot about the mentality of the team. And this is nothing new that we've seen since last year. And it comes from the head coach. But no, it was, it's good to have a point. You never know if it's going to help later. But ultimately, you can't help but feel like it should have been more.
Yeah. Tell you what, though, it would have been nicer to have 2 more points. I would have felt a lot better about this. And it feels ugly, man. You're right. It feels like a loss, right? Because we had this game in the bag. Some very controversial substitutions, some head scratching substitutions. We've talked about Brian Smetzer before, right? The man just knows how to play tactics. He's played against Vanny so many times, in finals. Like he knows him too well. I don't know. I feel like we really, really got lucky there with that tie, with that penalty shot at the end, right? Because questionable, to say the least. We won't get into that. That's up to pro, right, to decide. But okay, let's dive deeper into some stuff. Let's get into the meat of the sandwich, Matt. What do you say? Should we talk about this match like completely?
Yes, yes. Let's get
All
to
right.
the muffaletta of the sandwich.
Let's do it. You guys know what we do. We go into the section of the show where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the match. So naturally, of course, you guys know we always talk about the good stuff first. So Matt, why don't you get us started here? What were the good takeaways from the LA Galaxy on Friday? What were the good moments?
In terms of like the actual game itself, I don't really have like too many good moments. I remember when we were up 1-0, me turning to my wife and telling her, we're going to need at least one more goal because we're not in control of this match. Seattle, the longer they were holding the ball, the more they were figuring out, and you can just feel it that it was happening. Even though we had gotten the goals, they felt a little bit more fortunate than they did earned. So my good is going to be just the fact that for the first time since 2018, we actually have two goal scorers that have double-digit goals. That has not happened since 2018 when we had Zlan, Roman, and Ola Kamara. We now have Dijon with 10 and Chicharito with 11. Now, how the second goal scorer with double-digit goals is also a bench player, I don't know, but I guess we can call that progress. So yeah. Thanks, Greg.
Whatever works, man. If it's that's a very interesting stat, and I think we talked about it earlier this season. I think when we were setting goals for this season, I said that it would be nice to have multiple players have double-digit seasons, right? And I honestly didn't think it was possible. I thought Dijon was going to maybe get 6 or 7 here or there. I thought maybe Cabral was going to get 5 or 6 like he did last season. Figured maybe a handful of goals from Grancière. Maybe 15 goals from Chicharito, which it looks like he's on pace for 15, but it's very pleasant to see that. Look, on that same vein, a very positive for me, right? It wasn't all bad because the LA Galaxy did score 3 goals after all. At the end of the night, 3 goals. There are positives to take away from a team that scores 3 goals. I mean, that Victor Vasquez goal on its own, right? I mean, we're going to just go ahead and say that he intentionally did that. He meant to do that.
I was about to ask, do you think that was a shot or do you think that was a cross?
I think that was a cross.
I've crossed a couple of balls that way too.
Dude, listen, every soccer player out there, whether you play AYSO or whether you're playing for the World Cup, you do something like that, you intended it to do it. Even if you didn't, right? That's just soccer mentality. So, but it wasn't all bad. It was good. 3 goals. To me, the biggest positive from this is the Chicharito got back on the score sheet. Now, let me clarify because he has scored in 2 previous matches, right? But there were 2 penalty goals in that. Before that, he had gone on a bit of a dry spell where he wasn't scoring, right? So scoring this goal, his 11th goal of the season without the need of a penalty shot, we can call this a vintage Chicharito goal, right? It came off of that nice cross from Cabral, which on its own, of course, is a good positive to also take away from this game that Cabral was capable of providing that assist, and he did provide one in the previous match as well. But give credit to Chicha. Chicha trapped that ball perfectly on his left foot. He brought the ball under control with his stomach, and then shot the ball to Fry's opposite side. And did it with his right foot. It was a vintage Chicha style goal. It was good. I'm relieved to see that Chicha is still scoring it. He's scoring again, and that our 2 DPs linked up for that. We haven't seen that a lot from the LA Galaxy. We have seen Chicharito struggling, and other players, defensive players, even having to step up to provide those balls. So it was as it should be. There are a whole lot more problems with him, Kevin Cabral, that we definitely talked about to death with that guy. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but at least it was the 2 of them, and there was some link up play from there from both of them. So positives for me, right? Anything else, Matt?
No, I think that's it. I think you pretty much covered it. You took the best parts of that game.
That was about it. It was some positives, but now,
you know what? You know what? One more positive. It was a near sellout. There was a lot of people there for a Friday night. Yeah, that's really good. That's good on the fans. The Galaxy need their fans right now, and regardless of whether you're renewing your season tickets or not, you want to make that push. You got to support the things you love. So good on the fans for showing up.
Friday at 7, which is it's like traffic's winding down a little bit, but Most people hit the road probably around 4 or 5. You know, it was a good turnout. So that's good. And of course, speaking of season ticket members, there was an event, right, at the Aquarium of the Pacific. It's one of my son's favorite places in the whole wide world. Were you there, Matt?
No, I heard that they weren't letting you play with the penguins, so I didn't go.
Oh, dude, that's terrible. Yeah, I was. Yeah, weren't wasn't Victor Vasquez going to feed the otters or something?
That's what I heard, but
full scuba suit.
that was fake news, apparently.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't worth it then. I heard so many conflicting things about that event. Right, bunch of people messaged me. And they were like, dude, this was the worst thing ever. The Galaxy just mishandled this. Parking was an absolute nightmare. Like, I didn't meet the players I wanted to meet. We got herded into different crowds and we weren't allowed to go here, blah, blah, blah. And then other people were just like, dude, I had the time of my life. My kid got to meet so-and-so and it was just pleasant and it got so many autographs. So I'm still on the fence about it. I have no idea what happened. I wasn't there personally. It's like 50-50 on both sides. Some people had the worst experience. Some people had an amazing experience. So I want to talk to the people that had an okay experience, right? Like right in the middle. But good on the Galaxy for putting up something so unique like that, right? Because it is unique. I don't think any other MLS teams are doing that. So, you know, maybe when San Diego comes to town, they have something at the San Diego Zoo or the Safari Park or something.
Please.
Yeah. Or LAFC, they go down to Skid Row and feed the homeless.
Hey man, people need help.
People need help. But yeah, okay. So listen, let's talk about the bad moments of this game, right? We'll go into the bad. I'll kick it off. I still have a huge problem with this team's defense. I talked about it last week, even though we won 5-2. Some horrendous defensive mistakes. Where we allowed 2 goals, right? I have no idea still how some people out there are actually telling others that, and these are soccer pundits, right? Like experts that are telling people that this defense is improved. And at some point even said like vastly improved, right? Over last season in 2021. I'm sorry, but not only does the LA Galaxy defense fail the eye test, but the stats simply just don't prove that. They don't back it up. You know, like, listen, in 2021, the LA Galaxy at this point in the season, 25 games in, had allowed 40 goals at 25 games of the season, 2021. The LA Galaxy right now, as it stands in 2022, 25 games in, they have allowed 37 goals, right? Wow, we have improved by a goal differential of 3 goals. Like, you know what I mean? It's what are we talking about here? Is, you know, we're still bleeding easy goals given away with crappy mistakes that amateurs would make. That miscommunication in the back line is so evident. It's not even a skill issue with a lot of these players, because we have seen these players be good individually when they're at their best and they've given us good performance individually. These guys should be performing well as a back line. They are good players. It just doesn't seem like they communicate well with each other. There's no cohesion in that back line, or at least there's very little of it, right? And this team just, it's like they just don't know how to play off of each other, you know? And I've said it before, and I know this is kind of weird to say, but this team needs a Chiellini type of player, right? A Chiellini. Not Chiellini, but a player like Chiellini, an experienced veteran center back with, you know, amazing leadership skills, a true like hard ass that's just gonna like whip these guys, whip this back line into shape. There's no reason for the LA Galaxy to be allowing 3 goals during a home game after you've been up by 2. I don't know, Matt. What do you?
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and for me, like my bad, I don't even have a specific bad. It's like an all encapsulating. Everything is bad, kind of like bad, to be perfectly honest. So I guess I'll just start where on like Raheem Edwards, right? Like Raheem Edwards had like a god awful game. And it's just more of like the downhill slope that he's been on, you know, where Raheem Edwards it's pure chaos with him. He's taking dribbles and trying to go coast to coast by himself with no one running with him. He doesn't even look up. He just looks down and just tries to dribble through people. And then he's like surprised somehow when he's surrounded by 4 people on the offensive half and no one else is around him, right? And what does he do in the meantime? Like he leaves nothing but space behind him. He's pressing when no one else is pressing. He's not communicating. And then he's just reckless with his passes. I mean, if you think about Raheem Edwards in a lot of ways is just a sped up version of what's happened to Julian, where they're both playing hero ball, right?
Yeah.
Like if they get to the point where they look at the offense and are like, okay, we're stagnant. I need to do something because all the offense comes through the wings, right? And I don't blame them because if you look at the statistics, our 2 leading assist people are Raheem and they're Julian. So if they don't do anything, nothing happens on the offense. And whose fault is that? Like that ultimately falls on Greg in the midfield and him not communicating with them that they need to be more aggressive. And then you look at like the first goal. And the first goal, I want to point out Trooper for this one because he's the one who actually did the screenshots and explained it pretty well. They pass out wide to Roldan, and then Edwards goes out and presses, right? And what happens when Edwards presses? There's a space behind him. So then Ruidíaz runs behind him, gets into the space, and then crosses the ball to Rowe, who ultimately buries it. Now, Rowe had been open. I was on Julian's side the first half. Rowe had been open the entire first half, completely unmarked because Julian kept over pinching down. Now, how Vanny misses something so obvious, like the fact that Rowe scored on a backdoor pass is not surprising to anyone in the 134, 135, 136, 137 section. Everyone could see that thing coming. How the coach can see that coming is beyond me. And then you go to like the second goal, right? Like Rusnak hits the post twice and somehow like the team is unable to clear this ball, right? Like it's literally just settling in our half and no one would kick the ball out. And then Julian, the rest of the team just raises his hand. Julian takes a slow trot over to Lodero, who then crosses the ball, right? And then that's how you get the goal from Ruidíaz. Sega on that play is right there at the near post where he should be. But then Depew is stuck in between 2 men. He's stuck in between Morris, who's in front of him, and Ruidíaz, who's behind him. He's in no man's land. And Ruidíaz hits the header, and then where is Edwards, right? He's flat-footed, not even guarding the back post, just straight flat-footed, like surprised at watching the whole play happen in front of him, like just more ball watching. And it just goes to like that the team has not developed since last year of just ball watching. They're always ball watching the ball, especially Araujo, And then lastly, then this goes to like the substitutions that Greg Vanny made, which were totally suspect. Like the third goal, all that happened is that Zavaleta got bodied, and Greg brought his nephew in to shore up the defense, only for him to get steamrolled like he got hit by a Jeep Wrangler for that header. It was just all bad. So I think you're just seeing like a lot of like the same mistakes over and over again with Greg. And then and then I'm gonna go to another part. Okay. So then Puig comes in, right?
Yeah.
And like
bless his heart.
Puig played as well as you could play. He had 26 passes, 25 of them were completed. Only 1 pass was not completed. That's phenomenal for a midfielder that plays center attacking midfielder, right? And you could see Puig making these plays and like confused and frustrated why other Galaxy players weren't playing 1-2s with him, right? Like, why aren't you playing give and goes? Why aren't we advancing the ball? Soccer is a north-south sport, not an east-west sport, okay? The goal of the game is to score goals, and you've got to go forward to do that. And then even when like Seattle would pinch down 2 or 3 people on Puig, like he would look at his players like, why are you just standing there? Like, go occupy the emptied space. So I think like that disconnect is just, it's infuriating because it just goes back to like how Greg has instilled in this team, this over possession mentality, right? Like no one's willing to take a risk. They just want to stand there stagnant and recycle the ball and just rely on Julian and Edwards to make all the plays for them. But no, like the offense has to come to the middle. So no matter how good Puig is, ultimately, if we can't get our other midfielders to buy in, like it's going to fail. There's no doubt about it. This is arguably the most important week of practice we're going to have all season. And then finally, I swear this is the end of the rant. Greg did a Q&A at the aquarium thing, and I'm just going to point out 2 things. Like one, it seemed to me like he really threw his center backs under the bus. And granted, they're not good. They're not good center backs. But part of the problem of that is that you're just throwing your center backs under the bus. And like first point, these are all your guys. Williams was signed with you. Sega was signed with you. Depew was extended and re-up with you, and then you
Zabaleta.
hired your family member as the fourth guy. Like, and then you just throw them on the bus like these guys aren't good enough. And we still have 9 games to go, right? And then the other part that he brought up is he said something to the effect of like, someone asked him, who would you have on your prior teams when he played and put on this team? And he said, like, I think it was Kellickman and Frazier, and saying that like if we went down 1-0 at halftime, people would be flipping tables.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so you're saying that you're either implying that our team is soft or it doesn't have leadership, but you literally signed Sasha and Victor, 2 players who are in contract beyond their body's abilities for leadership skills, right? Like this is your team. And the problem with Greg is like, he always blames other people. It's the grass, it's the bus, it's the weather, it's my center backs, it's my leadership, we don't have a video room. It's everybody, but it's not Greg's fault. And that's the problem with like our team right now, is there's just no accountability. No one's held for anything. Our goalie doesn't talk. There's no leadership in the back line. And like, God forbid, like, instead of just blaming the center backs like we did in 2021 until we realized, oh yeah, Jonah was just like a hurt man, right? We don't acknowledge the fact that like the wingers are bombing undisciplined and the wing backs are bombing undisciplined and the wingers aren't covering, because that might fall on Greg, right? Or the fact that we're over possession orientated and us cycling the ball back and forth is leading us to be countered, because that also might fall on Greg, right? So that's what I have to say about that. I'm so sorry I took so long for that one.
No, man, I don't think there's a single person out there that's listening to this that's not agreeing with just about everything you said right now, man. Hope you guys caught that. Christ. Dude, it's like you hit the nail on the head, right? Especially when you say the like complete lack of accountability. It's always someone else's fault. It just seems to be like hot potato with this front office, right? It's been like over 2014 now, 7-8 years now since then, and it's like all of the failures, it's just been people have been hot potatoing. It was Peter Vagina's fault, it was Dennis Ciclos, or it was Siggy, or it was no, it's the banners were clear, right? That were flying overhead on Friday night. Somebody actually paid money to have a banner fly out there. It said Joven and Klein out. Man,
people are hurting.
People are hurting, let me tell you. And hopefully this Matt's rant right now resonates with so many people. I know it does. Like, it really does. And this is usually the part of the show where we like segue into talking about the ugly, but listen, we usually do that. I believe that our next topic, which is the LA Galaxy's playoff scenarios for the LA Galaxy, we should kind of lump that into this part of the show, because some parts of this, our playoff outlook for the LA Galaxy, is quite ugly. So Matt has taken some time to work on some numbers. He's kind of crunched, scenarios for us. The outlook for the LA Galaxy in the last 9 games of the season. Matt, don't hold back. What are we in for?
Okay, so I got to bring my notebook up to my face on this one. It's a bit troubling. So, I mean, obviously, we have 9 games left and only 3 of them are home games. So I know what you're thinking, like, okay, well, we're not very good at home, right? Yeah. We're also not very good with the condensed schedule. So we've had 2 condensed pockets so far in the league. I'll go through both of them. May 14th, May 18th, May 22nd. That was basically a 1-week period. We played Dallas, we played Minnesota, and we played Houston. That was a loss, a 3-1 loss, a 1-1 draw, and then a 3-0 loss. So we didn't do well when we were condensed there. Then we had a second condensed period as well. This was on July 4th, July 8th, July 13th, and July 16th. So very condensed on this spot too. We had Montreal, which we won 4-0. That was the first game of that condensed schedule. We were coming off a week break. But then game 2, we lose 3-2 to LAFC. Then we lose 3-2 to San Jose, and then we lose 2-0 to Colorado. So we have not come out positive or even reasonably acceptable on 2 condensed parts. So you look forward to the future, right? And like I said, we have 9 games left. 6 of those games are under very condensed schedule planning, okay? The first set of games is the one we're coming up on right now. We have, and this is New England on the 28th, Toronto on the 31st, and then Kansas City on the 4th, right?
Yeah.
New England has only lost 1 game in their last 6 games. They have 3 draws, 2 wins, and only 1 loss. Toronto has only lost 1 game in their last 6 games. They have 3 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss, and that like offense is basically unstoppable.
Oh, right
and
now,
then SKC, the last we checked, was winning 4-0. Then we go into the second stretch, right? So this is 9-10, 9-14, 9-13. That's Nashville, who will be fighting for a playoff spot, Vancouver, who will be fighting for a playoff spot, and Colorado, who will be fighting for a playoff spot. All 3 of these teams are within 1 point of us right now.
Yeah.
So 6 of our last 9 games are all condensed. And to be perfectly honest with you, New England and Toronto, that is a very far travel.
Yeah.
Like when you go to New England, you might as well just stay out there and just go to Toronto right after that.
Yeah.
So to be perfectly honest with you, it's not looking good. Like I said, this is probably the most important week of practice for Greg Vanney and the crew. He basically has 1 week to convince his midfield, who has been used to playing one way, that they need to play through Puig and they need to support him all the way. If we just play as we've been playing, this is not going to go well for us. We need to somehow get Puig integrated and offensive.
Damn, dude. So as you guys have heard, just what Matt said right now, the LA Galaxy has sucked when it comes to condensed schedules, condensed pockets, right? We're talking about 2 individual condensed pockets against 3 of those games are going to be against contenders that are vying for the final spots in the playoff. They're going to play their hearts out. 2 of those are on the road. And then we have New England, Toronto. New England under Bruce Arena against the LA Galaxy at home. Expect them to play their best game of the season, right? Toronto having a resurgence with their 2 new DPs who are just unstoppable. They have played 5 games together since joining with Toronto, and I think they've amounted to, I think it's 8 goals between both of them now. This is a threatening team, and our offense, can they handle a road trip to Toronto and face up against Insigne, who's been lethal, Bernadeschi, who's been lethal, right? Their offense has just been brand new. That's going to be a tough game. The LA Galaxy is against SKC at home. SKC already beat us, right? At Children's Mercy Sporting Park, whatever it's called. They just beat us recently. And SKC's having a little bit of a resurgence themselves. They just beat Portland 4-1, I think last time I checked. Nashville, that's going to be a tough one. Vancouver's going to be a tough one. The Galaxy at home against Colorado. I mean, I can see that as a Galaxy win, right? The Galaxy going up to San Jose. San Jose just beat LAFC in San Jose. You know, San Jose is a tough team to play against in San Jose. You guys know how that goes. Final home game of the season, Galaxy at Salt Lake. And then the final game of the season, Houston versus Galaxy. Are we seeing a light at the end of the tunnel here, Matt, or are things looking kind of bleak?
I think so much of it depends on how he integrates Puig. Puig is a very dynamic player. He's a great player, but you know, there's 11 people on the field. Yeah. So you can't win it by yourself. If you could have, Zlatan would have been raising a trophy, and Puig is not Zlatan. So they need cooperation there. I think we're gonna enter spurts of this final stretch, and we're gonna wish we would have done better earlier, just like we did last year.
The Galaxy's sitting at 34 points, and we've talked about this before. You've brought up this before, Matt. The Galaxy needs a minimum of how many points in order to just about be guaranteed a playoff spot?
48 is the number until it is statistically proven otherwise.
48 points. So we are how many points away from that? We are at 34 goals. We need how many more points, Matt?
I don't know. I'm not good at math. We need more.
We need more. The Galaxy has 3 home games left. That is, those games are just, you cannot drop any more points. There's absolutely, you just cannot drop any more points. Can't afford to do it. So those have to be wins. Galaxy against SKC, Galaxy against Colorado, Galaxy against Salt Lake. Plain and simple. So I would love to hear what the fans that are listening would have to say about where they believe the Galaxy is going to land at the end of the season. Matt, I'll ask you before we cut the show. Where do you see the Galaxy landing at the end of the season?
You know what's funny?
Decision
last
day.
year you actually asked this decision, and it was me and Casey, and I told you I thought they would be 1 point short of playoffs and they would miss it, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm afraid if I put it out there, it's gonna happen again.
Mastradamus, dude, you bastard! You're the reason we freaking.
It's my fault, guys.
It's your fault.
It's my fault. I'm sorry. I said we would be 1 point short, and then that's exactly what happened. You know what? I don't know. I have to see how Puig integrates. I think if he's not completely integrated next game, I would say the season's probably a write-off.
Yeah.
If they can't get it going by next game, it's over, because New England is a bad defensive team and Toronto's even worse. So if he can't get going against those two teams, it's probably a wrap, to be perfectly honest.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that as well. That's really what it comes down to. That's really what it comes down to. There's still a lot of answers for this LA Galaxy. There's still a lot of questions to be answered. That defense, right? But if we can shore things up in that midfield, that missing piece, this team could look completely different. But question is whether the rest of the team will be up to par, right? But yeah, I will not give my prediction just yet. I kind of already know where the Galaxy might land. But we'll hold off until maybe there's 4 or 5 games left in the season, huh? But I think we just about got through everything. I hope that you guys found a lot of this insightful. I know I did. Matt, I appreciate that, dude. You blew my mind there a little bit. We'll hopefully have Casey back next week. He was sorely missed this time around. Had some family stuff to get to, so we understand. But with that said, guys, we have another week of soccer. The LA Galaxy coming up Sunday against the New England Revolution. That's Sunday, August 28th. We'll see what the Galaxy looks like then. So from all of us here at the Galaxy Guy, myself, Chris Maldonado, my co-host, Matt Granger, Matt Stradamus, we want to thank you guys for joining us today, and we want to wish you guys a great rest of your week. We'll see you there.